Well, CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is here with us in the studio. And Chris, it's great to see you on this side of the Atlantic. It must pain you, though, to see what's happening in Gaza right now.
Yeah.
How likely is it that we're going to achieve a ceasefire?
Well, I know some Israeli officials seem optimistic, and as Chuck reported, there are talks going in Doha, but it still seems like there's two diametrically opposed positions. Hamas wants a permanent end to the war, permanent ceasefire. They want Israeli forces to withdraw. On the other hand, Israel needs to know that Hamas is defeated militarily. These are the goals from the very beginning of the war. They want Hamas never to rule Gaza again, and they want to free all the hostages. So sometimes they seem very contradictory, and it remains to be seen as well what the issue of humanitarian aid is going to be in these talks. Hamas wants to control that aid, and they've been doing that ever since October 7th, and usually they sell it and use it to control the population. This new Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has really been established to usurp that power from Hamas, and it's been working quite well. That's a key issue, but it remains to be seen.
On that issue, what do you make of Amnesty International attacking that same group, saying that this is all part of an elaborate plan to starve Gazans? It just doesn't make any sense for Amnesty to say that, and they're distributing food to the very people they're claiming that you're trying to starve. Why this huge pushback from Amnesty, from the UN, that this new organization, which seems to be effective on the ground, why the huge pushback?
It's a great question, and it is being very effective. In fact, I think they've passed maybe 40 million meals that they've distributed to Gazans who are needy, who are hungry, and they're not charging them for it, while Hamas has been stealing the aid and selling it back to their own people and using it to control the population. But the UN, Amnesty International, many of these NGOs are pushing back, I think partly because it's usurping the power, their authority as well, and their control over the population, and especially Hamas has been using this aid to really manipulate the people of Gaza.
Well, all of that was against the people of Gaza. I continually go back to the Stanford survey that was done in September prior to October 7th. So before the war, here Hamas has complete control over Gaza. There's no IDF in the streets at all. And they're saying the average Gazan has food insecurity, which is a complicated way to say they're hungry.
Sure.
They don't have enough food. So when Hamas was completely in control, the population was starving. Why isn't that front and center in every discussion of this war?
It should be, but that's the upside down world that we live in, of how Gaza is portrayed in the media and how it's represented in many of these NGOs and especially the UN.
Do you see a ceasefire? Because it seems there's such a push to let's stop the war. Do you see that in that ceasefire, Hamas has any glimmer of hope of staying in power in Gaza?
Well, it depends on how the terms of the ceasefire go. But I know Hamas is just clinging to any ability to survive. Most of their leadership has been killed and eliminated. Much of their territory has been taken over by the IDF. But they're still clinging to that glimmer of hope that they could survive a ceasefire. And the main thing is always the hostages. The hostages are their main card that they play, not only to play on the sympathy of the world and especially Israelis, just hold those hostages so they can cling on to power and try to survive the war.
Well, I'll push back. I don't see how that plays on the sympathy of the world. It's absolutely horrific to take civilians hostage and hold them as some kind of, well, if you don't come to peace with us, if you don't do what we tell you to do, we're going to kill them. I mean, that's the definition of terrorism.
Yeah.
So the world should condemn it.
They should. And maybe the world has not condemned it in total, but certainly it's been so heart-wrenching for Israelis. And that has divided Israelis in terms of the ceasefire. You have some Israelis that say, we will do anything, we will accept any deal, just get our family
get
members
our people home.
On the other hand, there's something like the Tikva Family Forum that says we need to make sure that Hamas is defeated Not that they don't want all the hostages back home, but that has to be the priority.
So this never happens again.
Exactly.
There's never an opportunity for it.
Yeah.
We've done the, exchange 1,000 prisoners for one Israeli soldier, and in that exchange, you had Yahya Sinwar, and he was the architect of this horror.
Exactly.
Turn to Iran, and again, a huge pressure for ceasefire, end of hostilities, but yet the regime, the Ayatollah, stays in power. Isn't that just kicking the can down the road? Aren't we going to see them try to rebuild the nuclear program, rebuild all the arsenal, and come back with very deadly intent to Israel?
Well, they said that pretty much as soon as the ceasefire was over. We have a right to enrich uranium. We want to do it. We're going to rebuild. We're going to kick out the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and we're going to go ahead and do what we want to do. I would say how it played out in some of the people we talked to in Israel, that it was a premature ceasefire, and it did leave the can to be kicked down the road. And it seemed to be so close to a regime change, to be able to topple the regime and to let the people of Iran finally be free. So there was a mixed feeling about when the war was ended after 12 days, maybe on the cusp of a regime change. And there was a sense that maybe there was an opportunity missed.
Oh, many of our viewers don't know that immediately after the ceasefire, there was an incredible crackdown on the Christians in Iran and all political opposition. And so the regime definitely made sure there could be no opposition going forward.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe people should know, and I think our viewers may know, that there is a great, vibrant underground church in Iran. Some people say the fastest growing church in the world, and many people coming to faith through dreams and visions. And it's very important to pray for them and pray for the opposition, that perhaps there can be regime change there to finally let these people be free after 40 years.
During these turbulent times, what's your hope? Is there any hope for Abraham Accords, the movement in Hebron to say we're leaving the Palestinian Authority? Are we on the verge of an enormous breakthrough for peace?
I think we are on the verge of a new Middle East. I mean, there was a man named Avi Dichter. He's a member of the Knesset, member of Likud, and he said, we are maybe really seeing a new Middle East that's been talked about for years. We may see Saudi Arabia come in. We may see Lebanon and Syria come into the Abraham Accords. And as you referred to, 5 sheikhs in Hebron actually said they want to be away from the Palestinian Authority, they want to be free of them, and they want to join the Abraham Accords and be part of Israel. So we really may be on the verge of a historic change in the Middle East, a real window of opportunity, and why it's so important to be praying for President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu. These are historic times. And if you can realize what happened since October 7th, and Iran was sort of the dominant player in the region, now they are gone, and Hamas and Hezbollah, the Houthis, are a shadow of what they were. So this could be a breakthrough of a new Middle East, and certainly a time to be praying.
I'll sound a cautionary note. Yes, there's tremendous avenues for breakthrough, the advance of Abraham Accords, but I've got to point back to what the Ayatollah did when he started invoking the Khyber and a small Muslim force defeating a very large Jewish community. In the early days of Islam, the ideology seems to remain, and it may go dormant, but it's still there. It's still under the surface, and if they stay in power, is it going to be 2 years, 4 years? Well, what's the time? It's like there's a ticking time bomb there.
And they can be very patient.
Yes, and they have been. All right. Well, Chris, thanks for the insight. And please be praying for the Middle East. Pray for very unusual wisdom for our president and our State Department right now. These are crucial days, and crucial days for the generations ahead. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the Middle East turned peaceful and wasn't exporting terror all over the place, and all this radical Islam that seems to glorify murder and mayhem in some strange way of worshiping their God? It makes no sense to us in the West, but it seems to make a lot of sense to them.